Out of the many branches of astrology, locational astrology is one of my favorites. Otherwise known as astrocartography, your birth details generate your own personal world map, with planetary lines plotted according to a planet's location in the sky in relation to your ascendant, or AC, descendant, DC, midheaven, MC, and Coeli, IC. You don't have to travel to all of these places. These themes can also manifest through people you meet. For example, maybe your Venus line runs through Moscow. You may never set foot in Russia, but you could end up falling in love with someone who was born there. You don't even have to travel to direct coordinates. The energy from each line radiates out 300 miles or 480 kilometers. For maximum clarity, connect each line to its placement in your natal chart to understand how you'll experience it. I thought it would be helpful to show you what could happen when you travel or relocate somewhere by combining my own personal experiences with common themes associated with visiting these lines. As I travel to more of these places, I'll update my original article, and the link to that is in the description. Each planet creates 4 types of astrocartography lines. An AC line or ascendant line shows where a planet was rising when you were born. As your ascendant or rising sign is the hallmark of your outward personality, your ascendant line demarcates where in the world you come alive and grow. The planet associated with an AC line influences how you come across to people in that region. A DC line or descendant line shows where a planet was setting when you were born. Traveling to a DC line can activate past tendencies, past life energy, or affect your relationships. An MC line or midheaven line shows where a planet was at the top of the sky when you were born. This line affects your career and public reputation. An IC line or Coeli line shows where a planet was at the bottom of the sky when you were born. Themes of childhood and the home appear here, whether you were called to heal ancestral wounds or plant roots in a new town. Each planetary line brings its own themes. The sun line brings feelings of recognition and being the most comfortable in your own skin. The moon line brings feelings of home, moodiness, family, retreat, and relaxation. The Mercury line brings themes of communication, learning, life lessons, and epiphanies. The Venus line brings feelings of love, inspiration, and beauty. The Mars line brings motivation and ambition, or sometimes combativeness and irritability. The Jupiter line brings luck, opportunities, and growth. The Saturn line brings themes of mastery, responsibilities, and discipline. The Uranus line is best for escaping the daily grind, change, and culture shocks. The Neptune line brings mysticism, dreams, illusion, and idealization. The Pluto line facilitates shadow work and power struggles, but also empowerment and transformation. The Lilith line gives off black sheep vibes and deep passion. The Chiron line tends to open wounds or trigger the healing of past wounds. And finally, the North Node line guides you toward your life purpose and spiritual evolution. Now for my personal travels, to give you an idea of the kind of vibes you may experience. Isla Palominos, Fajardo, Puerto Rico. 70 miles or 113 kilometers from my Sun MC line. My first time on an airplane was at age 5. My mom had just won a contest at work and was celebrating being the top seller of HBO subscriptions in the era of Sex and the City and The Sopranos. See the golden years of cable TV. Luckily for her, I always knew how to keep myself busy by writing in my little journal and doodling. When we landed in San Juan, we had to ride this questionable bus on the way to the ferry, which would then lead us to paradise. The bus driver was pouring everyone shots of rum, partaking in some himself, of course. I would say being on my sun line opened the door to the world for me. This was a place where I felt pure joy and safety. Where the sun is the source of all life and creation, so is how I felt about my mother, an ambitious yet shy 30-year-old single mother who was an underrated beauty. She skipped her awards dinner and the opportunity to wear a glamorous evening gown to bathe me in Juniper Breeze body wash, watch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and order room service. It was the most magical time we had together. The promise of a new life was on the horizon for us as she climbed the ladder of a blossoming career and was inching towards independence, which unfortunately never materialized. Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, 116 miles or 187 kilometers from my Mercury AC line. When visiting Jenny Mackey in August, the conversation was endless. We exchanged so much knowledge and promoted each other's endeavors. My mind felt clear and sharp here. I felt very connected to the people I interacted with and was in awe of my surroundings. Not like I made instant friends with everyone, but like I could anticipate their thoughts and actions. It was stimulating, yet not overwhelming. With my Mercury in my first house in Libra, I remember feeling very conscious of my aesthetic presentation, feeling a slight frustration at my styled curls for disappearing into the marine wind. Although I wasn't having the best hair day, Libra also governs relationships and diplomacy. And the true reason for me being there was to strengthen the bond with a wonderful friend of mine. Albuquerque, New Mexico, USA. 31 miles or 50 kilometers from my North Node and Mars AC line. People I have met from this location have historically brought out a more confrontational and defensive side of me. I wouldn't say Albuquerque is pushing me to pursue leadership, which is typical of Mars, but regular interactions with it do push me to pursue other areas of life in a strange way, like creating cinnamon and Jupiter. If anything, it pushes me to confront my assertiveness and growth. Getting out of your comfort zone is kind of the point when you're seeking self-improvement. Tokyo, Japan, 75 miles or 120 kilometers from my Uranus DC line. Trips here don't always work out the way I intend. Sometimes unexpected things occur. When I visited Tokyo in 2019, I was living out a dream for my tween years. It was the reason I obtained my passport. It was quite the culture shock, coming from such a car-dependent town like Las Vegas to navigating a constant electric public transit city by foot. I lost my train pass the day before I left and didn't know how to convey this to the attendants in Japanese, as I needed this to be able to leave the station and return to my hotel. Luckily, they let me go, probably because I cried and made them uncomfortable. Most of my outfits that I wore here were pink, while the locals wore dark professional clothing, so I did stand out a bit. How Uranian. I thought I would blend in a little better with Harajuku, but I was disappointed to find that not everyone was rocking Decora, Lolita, or Gaguro style in the day I explored the area. Most of the commuters were very well dressed, a far cry from the subway dwellers of New York City, despite the rush hour crowding. Being near a DC line, Tokyo brought the Uranian energy of sudden change, which showed up in travel mishaps and relationship challenges. Sedona, Arizona, USA. 42 miles or 67 kilometers from my Uranus IC line. Last year, I carried out my mother's final wish to be cremated and cast in Sedona, Arizona. Our first visit there was in 2004. She fell in love with the area, and I developed a fondness for its mystical energy as well. I remember walking through Tlaquepaque and happening upon a white butterfly resting on the pavement. I picked it up and held it in my hands for a few moments, bewildered that it didn't try to evade me. I tried to get my mother's attention before my little friend disappeared. It seemed as though we were having our own moment, as nobody else was aware of what I was even experiencing. She fluttered away, brushing my cheek as a familiar wave hello. It wasn't until then that my mother finally turned around asking me what happened. This being near an IC line makes it fitting for a core childhood memory. We returned in 2012 to visit at least one of the vortexes in the area, which was in the middle of nowhere. We were led to a remote desert location where my grandparents complained of damaging the undercarriage of their low-riding Cadillac DeVille. The following spirit animal reading did not move them, and instead became a big joke. For my mother's casting ceremony, which was a party of one, myself, and was supposed to have 4 other virtual attendants, only 2 showed up, and they weren't even the blood relatives. And it was so hot outside that my phone shut down. I couldn't even record it. Uranus is associated with technology, which can cause electronic devices to unexpectedly fail. Las Vegas, Nevada, USA, 91 miles or 148 kilometers from my Neptune IC line. I was born here, I live here, which makes sense being near an IC line. I have dreams of building a spiritual community here, and the glamour associated with this town is highly Neptunian. If this is Sin City, is this the right place to create a spiritual society? I've reflected on this quite a bit. Is this environment conducive to fulfillment and enlightenment? Does it foster a sense of purpose in people? No, Las Vegas is not really known for any of these things, but why not create that atmosphere? Why not reintroduce these ideologies to this growing community where more families are moving here by the year? If this is a place people are starting to raise their children, we should focus on creating a better environment. How I will do this, I'm still not absolutely certain. I'm pretty much riding blind along the path to success, doing my best not to be distracted by the neon lights in the process. South Florida, 41 miles or 66 kilometers from my Pluto AC line. It always rains there when I go. I always get sick, yet I'm drawn to it. My husband is from this region, and I had met 2 people in a row from Florida right before I met him. I personally have a toxic relationship with this line because it brings extremes. I love the art and culture in South Florida, but I never feel comfortable in my skin there. And after my latest visit, I discovered I have a mold allergy. Yet as I settle back into my daily routine at home, I find myself romanticizing and obsessing over it again. So, are you curious about your own astrocartography map? If you want to create your own, you can create a free account on AstroDeist or astro.com, then navigate to free horoscopes, then locational astrology, and then AstroClick travel. You'll want to enter your birth data to generate an interactive map, and then you can click on any city to see its proximity to your planetary lines. If you end up looking into your own astrocartographical connections, I'd love to hear about them in the comments section. Let's dissect them. If you want more Logan in your life, I'm also on Substack, Instagram, and TikTok under my Cinnamon and Jupiter publication, your go-to resource for guidance on manifesting abundance, celestial wisdom, and vibrating at your highest frequency. I'm also now offering birth chart analyses. I personally write each analysis and break it down by all 12 houses. Each purchase includes custom ritual suggestions and a free issue of Cinnamon and Jupiter. Book a reading now. Blessed be.